This is John Barnett.
And this is Terrence J.
Welcome to RatedXYZ podcast, the Coach's Room. Terrence, we've got a beautiful, wonderful, special treat for the folks watching on this podcast. We got Coach Rutledge of DePaul University that's going to share some of his experiences and hopefully pass down some gems of knowledge for those listening. This podcast is about helping you to coach yourself to success in whatever endeavor of life that is. Brother Terrence, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm excited to talk to Coach Rut, man.
We're going to introduce Coach Rutledge, Christopher Rutledge. I want to read his coaching philosophy first, and we'll just look at some of the achievements he's got. He says, "My job is to teach players and nurture their talent to become successful student athletes. They will succeed. They will succeed. Note that, because I train and prepare them to be ready for the challenges they will face. They fail when I fail, so I have a responsibility to lead them to success." Currently, Coach Rutledge is the offensive line and run game coordinator at DePaul University. And correct me, jump in anywhere, Coach, if I'm not getting any of this right. He has a list of achievements so long, both athletically and academically, from increasing the status of the program to getting guys through academics. He's attended University of Miami, the U. Am I getting that right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's right.
Did some time with the Baltimore Ravens, spent some time in the CFL and in the Indoor Football League, and has worked under various coaches that are either now in upper levels of college football or professional. Welcome, Coach Rutledge. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it. Glad to be here.
So we're going to start out the gate, man.
Coming out hot. Coming out hot.
Who is Coach Rutledge?
That's right.
Man, if you had asked me this about 10 years ago, I probably couldn't answer it. I think right now, first and foremost, I would say truly I'm a God-fearing man who is doing everything he can to follow his leadership. Do I struggle and fall short of that sometimes? Yes, I do. I'm a human being. But at the end of the day, he is my director. From a earthly perspective, I'm just a normal guy. I mean, I'm a normal guy who was blessed with a talent to impact kids and take them to a place that they never saw themselves going. I'm an evaluator of talent. I'm an evaluator of people. Most importantly, and at the end of the day, my job here is to maximize those who I impact on a day-to-day basis, or who I come in contact with on a day-to-day basis.
Beautiful. I like that word, evaluator. Can you speak more to that?
Yeah. I think being an evaluator is much more than just a talent thing and what we see on film in my profession. It's more so about the person. Who are you getting when they come on campus? Are they smart? Can they handle does their character fit your program? Do their family's characters fit your program? Just as much as we recruit players, we also have to recruit their families as well.
So, Coach Rut, like, I know coaching, it's not easy. It's not easy. Like, I've done it basketball, I've done it just various sports. But what drew you to coaching?
What drew me to coaching? When I was young, I was in high school. I felt that I knew what I wanted to do, and that was to go into business. And that did not work out very well because I didn't do well in math. So my secondary path was to be a chef. That's what I thought I wanted to do. I am really good at cooking in the kitchen. I can kind of get down in there. But it was this gentleman named Thomas Matthews. He is my mentor to this day. He literally calls me or texts me every single day. He came into my life at about the 11th grade, and he poured into me like no one had ever poured into me before, from a perspective of, you can do it, you're capable, I see something in you that you don't see in yourself. Listen to what I got for you, because you will be able to succeed if you just trust. And like any other high school kid, I didn't believe in him. I didn't believe it, and he kept repeating the same stuff. And one day I decided to play the other side of it, which said, you know what, I'm going to listen to what this old man is telling me to do, and if it doesn't work, I can blame him. So even in that moment, I still wasn't taking responsibility, for myself. I was like, hey, if it don't work, I can still blame him if I don't succeed. And lo and behold, he was right. I succeeded, and I give him credit for it, for taking a chance on somebody who wasn't even his kid, who he just saw something in and just invested himself into me.
So when it comes to coaching, and there's some things that I want to get back to, man. You said a lot right there. But when it comes to coaching, a lot of us realize that it's more than just a game. So when did it hit you that, when you started coaching your football players, like when did you realize that it was more than just a game, not just coaching the actual game?
I realized it in college from my own personal issues. I actually hurt my back in college. I had a herniated disc in my back that put me out for 6 months. And it was at that time where I started to realize, like, man, this coaching thing might become something. It might become something. Like, I kind of like it. I like being on the behind the scenes and looking at the film and evaluating myself and just looking at it from a perspective. Even though I had no clue at what I was looking at, the idea of it was great. When it became about the people, or the how do you say that, when it became about more than just a game for me, it was honestly when I realized that my calling was to give back to other young men that came from my area of growing up in, and other. I felt like I owed the game. Like Thomas Matthews, he poured into me. I felt like I owed it to the game to pay it back.
So is that what it felt like, the mentor that you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
the coach? I felt like he was giving back to you?
Yeah, I truly did. And at that time, I didn't realize he was giving back himself, because he too played football and was in the military and stuff like that. He also was giving back. And I did not think I would be where I am today or on a trajectory that I'm on. I just want to direct kids so they didn't follow some of the same stupid mistakes that I made.
And before we move further, you mentioned the word responsibility. When did that light cut on in your mind to start taking ownership of your own choices and actions?
It definitely wasn't immediate. And even as a coach of young men, taking ownership of your own responsibilities like that and your own choices, it didn't happen immediately. I would say probably here within the last 4-5 years, maybe. You start diving down the road of trying to be responsible, but not really knowing what it is. And if I'm being honest, maybe the truth of the matter is taking full, complete ownership, not just of work, but life. Probably started within the past maybe 2 years, because you put a lot into working and all of that, but there's so much more other than work.
But was there an event that happened, or just a realization that it's time to take responsibility?
Like any coach, you got a family.
Yeah.
Or not gonna say any coach, like most of us, you have a family. And like most of us, we start out trying to grind and figure it out and stay up late and do all this stuff that we think we need to do. And the actuality of it is we should be fathers and husbands and friends and stuff like that. And that is not always the case immediately. You sometimes you experience some growing pains and things that may happen that cause you to have to make some changes and evaluations to what you're doing and who you are.
That's interesting, because I told my wife when I turned 40, and I kind of said it half jokingly. I said, I should have waited till I was 40 years old to get married. It was just like you were saying, it was just like I grew into it. And you kind of go through the motions sometimes. And then finally it's like, okay, I think I'm starting to see where I need to be, what I need to be doing. The earlier you can find that is actually the better. But that's interesting that you said that.
Yeah, the earlier you find it, it is better, and we all men, women, even young teenagers, we all wish we could find our best self sooner rather than later. But I can say that I've made mistakes that every other coach has made by early on in your career and in the middle of it, and maybe towards the end. Sometimes the waves just kind of go where you forget your first ministry has to be the one at home. So
I think that's the beauty of coaching, right? Is to bring that out in others. So I remember being, I want to say, an elementary man, running plays, not even know what you're doing. But I remember our coach, he was a janitor,
mm,
but he loved basketball. But he got me to buy in the program because he kept lifting me up and elevating me in ways that I didn't think, right? So one particular game, one particular practice, we were running the same play over and over, over and over. And I was on the intramural teams, and he was like, the intramural does it better than the varsity team. So this is what we're going to do. Intramural start next game. So that play that we were running all day in practice, he was like, Jefferson, you got the green light to take the shot. So basically, it was just a simple backdoor play. When I seen the ball go to the top of the key, and when they swing it, I just drop back. I just go back door for a layup. My grandfather so happened to be at that game, and I had 12 points off that back door every single time. Just kept going. But it's what you guys are talking about is that good coaches see the potential, but then they can get you to that level early. So when I think that was like in fourth grade. So make a long story short, that's when I developed that love for basketball. It had nothing to do with wanting to be like Kobe, wanting to be like Shaq. It had everything to do with that. My coach, being a janitor, it's funny, but what my coach had done, he got me to buy in, but also see a potential that I never saw before. And I think that when you mentioned earlier about your a coach, like what was it that got you to that next level? Like what did he teach you that still sticks today or that still resonates today?
The biggest thing he would always tell me, and I literally just popped in my head. He would always tell me, "You never know who's watching." In everything that you're doing, you never know who's watching. So if you're playing on the field and you're having a bad game, you can't let people see that you're having a bad game. If your teammate is acting a certain way, you can't act along with him. You need to be the leader of that. And it resonates with me now as a coach, because you sit in a stand that's filled with 10, 12,000 people, and you never know who's watching you specifically. So just having him harp that on me and allowed me to know that you know what, it doesn't matter what you do, what you are doing, there's always somebody paying attention to you. Even if you are not purposely trying to impact them, there's always somebody watching what you're doing.
So looking at just coaching in general, in today's game, there's many popular and successful coaches, but there are coaches that you see players on other teams say, "I wish I was coached by that guy." Not for their winning record. A lot of people hoist trophies, but it was because they're able to not only coach the X's and O's, but they're able to transform lives. So, in your experience, what separates a good coach, meaning a coach that's successful with the numbers versus one that's transformational?
Honestly, I think a good coach, his statistics show everything. How many games he's won, how many championships he's won, how many rings he may have, and how many guys he may have put into the NFL or whatever, like those are good coaches, and within that they also get good players. You're never going to find a good coach with bad players. A good coach will always have good players. Okay? But a transformational coach, he will always have good people who happen to be good players. Okay? They are good people first, and they happen to be good players. Like, them being good people is just part of who they are every day, and them showing up on Tuesday through Thursday to have football practice every day, before they get ready to travel on a Friday and play on a Saturday. Those are the guys who you really rely on. That's what a transformational coach does. He also has a lot of the unseen things, like the guys he's graduated that made it through to college. They come from a lesser environment and they finish. Guys who are honestly willing to, after they have gone and started their own lives, they can recall some things that you have instilled in them that you didn't know they were paying attention to. And they use it in their everyday life. Like, you have had some kind of transformational impact on their day-to-day living. And that's what Thomas Matthews did for me. So I do believe that transformational coaches find great people who happen to be good players, and then they can help facilitate the growth in them.
Well, that brings up a question, man. Can you coach? Let's see. You said a good person. Can a person be coached to being a good person?
Yes, I think everybody has the ability to change. Everybody has the ability to grow. Sometimes, whether it's your environment or anything like that, it may dictate how you are. And and I'll speak to the youth, they only know what they know. And it is up to us as coaches to, again, see something in them, whether they are a really good player or they're a good player who's missing that character trait that will help them get over the hump, because everybody's not promised to play in the NFL. Somebody's going to have to own a business. Somebody's going to have to work for somebody. So you need to be able to interact with others. I do believe that a person that doesn't start off as a good person can change and grow into that.
Yeah. I remember when Coach, when you were at DePaul, when John and I were there speaking to the team.
Yeah. I remember that at the Alpha event.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. You said something that stuck out to me that was so powerful, and it related to this question right here. So how do you help your players not just develop as athletes but men? Because I remember you said something to that nature when we were at DePaul.
How I help my players is just to be as transparent and open as possible, and vulnerable as possible, so they can see what it looks like to have a good day, what it looks like to have a bad day, what it looks like to have growth, what it looks like to have failure. It is hard sometimes, doing that in your day-to-day life and in your coaching life. It's a challenge. It really, truly is. But I think just not for your players, but for anybody, if you want them to grow, you kind of have to try to show that a little bit as well. Also, I try to teach my players or the guys that I have direct impact with, and the ones that I don't, that everything that you're going through is not your responsibility to handle. Meaning, you can't take care of, because I think what we're talking about, handling extra family and all that stuff, and that burden that it puts on you. Those things aren't your responsibility to do. Your responsibility is to grow and just be the best version of yourself, and then you can help take care of them once you are settled, within. Yeah. I think I remember that conversation.
Yep. Because as a man, because that's what it is. It was the burden that these athletes have, that they feel they need to take care of home. They need to go back home, send mom's money. And like what you said earlier, that's not your responsibility as a man. Like your job right now.
As a young man.
Yeah, there you go. As a young man.
Because you got your own stuff you're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. But that's important to hear from a coach's standpoint, because you said that's what you related to in your experience.
Yeah, I did. And my mom didn't put any of that on me. She didn't force it on me. She didn't say, "I need you to go out here and do that." Actually, on the other side, it was totally the opposite. It was, "Hey, I don't need you to do this. I can take care of myself. I'll be fine." But there's such a burden in your heart and in your spirit that's like, "Man, I got to do something. I have to do something, whether they want it or not. I have to do something." And then the burden comes when you don't fulfill it, when you think when the timing should have been fulfilled. That's when the burden comes, because now you start to stress out about what you did not accomplish, and then all the things that you need to do in the meantime, whether it's focus on academics, be the best athlete you can be, the best band member or actor or whatever it is that you're studying in school. You tend to lose sight of that because your sole focus has been, I have to take care of this person who didn't ask for it. And you put that responsibility on yourself, especially our young men. Especially our young men.
I liken this to when you get on a plane um, and you sit down and they tell you about all the different things that are taking place. And they talk about the plane may experience depressurization. They say when the mask drops, put your mask on first. Then you can help somebody else.
I wish I had you always knew that when you're flying a plane, because I've flown on a plane before, and you hear that, but you wish you knew then what you know now,
Yeah.
and you understood what that meant, because I would be a much better person if I would have put my own mask on first, instead of trying to worry about things that I can't control, or responsibilities that I don't have. But I have grown out of that. I am focusing on myself, and it has helped out a huge. It has made a huge turnaround for me personally.
How are you transmitting that to your players now?
Just being open about. I've opened up to them and I said, hey, if you need to go see a therapist, go see a therapist. Like, go do it. I do it. Like, I go see a therapist. I have a life coach to help keep me on track, whenever I get lost. I tell them, hey, if you believe in a higher power, because I don't want to ever disrespect anyone's belief. If you have a higher power that you believe in, you need to pray to that. You need to pray to that and keep that in your corner. I'll be lying to you if I sat here and said, oh, that was always in my corner when I was young. I would sit here and say that it was in my corner until I didn't want to listen, or it wasn't comfortable, but you try to just guide them in a way that, so they don't make the same mistakes you made. That's what you hope. And you can't reach them all. But you hope you get enough.
So
Go ahead, Terry.
no, you had mentioned that you yourself has got a life coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I always said coaches need coaches. I mean, there are times where we even get stuck, or there are some times we need direction. So, speak to some things where you felt stuck or you needed that assistance in that area from a life coach.
Yeah, he's a pastor, who is also a life coach. So it started immediately from a spiritual perspective. And in talking to him and communicating with him, the after one session, he immediately acknowledged, like, Chris, you have to be a better leader. And I'm always thinking, like, oh, I'm a good leader. My players are succeeding. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Like, look at the list of stuff. But he taught me very quickly, it's so much more than just the stuff. Being a leader is something that you have to work at doing every day, because honestly, if you're married or you're not married, or you run a business, you don't wake up every day wanting to lead. Sometimes you want that burden to be taken off of you, but you also understand that it has to get done. So I have to take a deep breath, get a prayer in, and then go about my day to fulfill the obligation that I'm called to do. And again, you don't always succeed at it. I don't always succeed at it. I'm not perfect, and I'm always going to be a work in progress.
So when we asked you, who is Coach Rutledge, did leader pop up?
It did, but you know what it also, I was feeling like, hey, I need to be humble a little bit, because leader is not something that you say, is what you do. And again, we all fall short as men. We all fall short of being a consistent leader or being a leader every single moment of our day. But it did pop in my mind. But the thought of it was, I'm really, I may be a leader, but I'm just a average dude. Like, I'm just an average guy. Like, I like to hang out. I like to eat. I like to watch football. Like, I do the same thing you guys do. The difference is I deal with the kids from the ages of 18 to 21 right now, and trying to make them the best versions of themselves. Try not to let them make the same mistakes I made when I was that age.
You know what I'm hearing though is, and I totally resonate with everything you just said, but I'm hearing a leader slash servant, where as a leader, you have to serve. And of course, ascribing to principles that Jesus Christ laid down, it's he that is greatest must be least.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm hearing from you is your leadership role tends to be a servant.
yeah,
More,
yes, it has, and that it was not always that way. I'm gonna be very honest with you. It wasn't always that way. When I first got into coaching, I was trying to lead with an iron fist.
mm,
Like yelling and screaming, and you had to get them in line first and foremost before they would do anything. But I forget who I heard it from, and I've heard it. You've heard several people say it. The quote of, "It's not about, for the kids. It's not about what you know, but how much you care."
mm.
Okay, and the kids really don't care that I know football or that I know whatever. They want to know that they're cared for. They want to know that you are gonna give me the best advice when I come to you. That is really what they. That's really what they care about. And then if they know that you care, then that's when they work really hard for you.
So give me your top three coaches, right, of all time. Football, basketball, don't matter. But before we get there, I do want to get your take on the way that Deion Sanders is coaching his team and his son. Like, how do you feel about that dynamic, like that situation?
Um, I don't know. I mean, it's always a slippery slope type conversation, because, I'm a football coach. He's a football coach. We're on different levels, but our players all refer to us as coach. I think Coach Sanders has a really unique situation because he is coaching his kids. And I don't know any man on this planet who would not want to coach their sons all the way up until, forever. Okay, you get to be with young men who eventually become your best friends when they become adults, and y'all are at that stage where you can be friends. I think he's doing a great job in leading his team. He's obviously doing something right. He's turned them around in a matter of 2 years. So his coaching style and philosophy, it works for them. It works for him. You can tell that he's a God-fearing man. So I don't have any issue with what he's doing, because it works for him. It's what's working, and it has always worked. He hasn't changed what he's doing when he was at Jackson State or at Colorado. Like, he's been doing the same thing.
Yeah, so because his coaching style, I do like it because it's not just on the field; it's majority off the field. So it's just life principles and things of that nature, and that's what you brought out on multiple things. But who's your coach's coach? In other words, who are your top three? Like, who's your top three favorite coaches of all time?
Man, you mean like ones that I've interacted with, or just like in general?
Yeah, in general, like ones you interacted with or the ones known. Like, for an example, one of mine is Tony Dungy. I love Tony Dungy because he stuck with his Christian principles and he didn't force them, but he gave options. And then, like, if you compare him to Mark Jackson, because as far as Christian coaches, there's something.
Mm-hmm. I will say and this is not in any particular order. I had a offensive line coach in college who is now currently the offensive line coach with the Philadelphia Eagles. He is by far the best offensive line coach in the country today. And that's just my humble opinion.
Mm-hmm.
He is capable. He was capable when he coached me to get the best out of me in a short period of time.
Wow.
And had I had him a little longer, I would have maximized my full growth as a player and started on my path as a person. He was really good at finding ways to get the best out of you, both on the field and off the field. Great guy. The next one would probably be Rock Bellantoni. He is the linebackers coach at Auburn. He is a phenomenal person. He is a coach who's actually aided me getting into the college coaching world. I found out the story after the fact, but he aided me getting in. And he is just a great person I can lean on, I can talk to. He believes in the Lord God. He has a family. He does it the right way with how he interacts with his players. And I watched it. And we coached two separate positions, and I watched it. The third one, I would kind of have to piggyback off Terrence and say Tony Dungy is a good one. I met him actually this year at a coaches summit kind of a thing here in Indianapolis at their stadium, and I met him for the first time. And immediately when he walked in, you could feel his aura, like it was a bunch of kids in a candy store trying to get close to him. We're all recording and hanging on to every single word that he dropped. He didn't speak very loud. It was very, very soft. And he just had this presence to him that you could not deny. And if I could walk into a space and people could feel my presence and you just couldn't deny it, that would be, and it is not about football. It's just the person. That, it to me, is the epitome of what a good coach is. I mean, obviously, you got Nick Saban and all that stuff, and he probably gets the same thing, but it's from a different perspective, in my opinion. Tony Dungy is phenomenal at just taking over a room, and if you don't listen, you will not hear what he's saying. Because he just speaks so softly, but his words are powerful. I appreciate y'all having me. This is my first time doing this. So when I got the email about it, I literally had to think about it. I had to pray about it. And I was like, all right, why not? It's my first one. I'll do it.
That's right.
See what it is. I mean, what do I have to lose,
Yeah, that's right. So we can transition just a little bit. Some of your football plays that you design, are there any life principles from those that you can take and share with people? Like maybe your top 3 plays that you have. Is there some application that we could take from that to help us in different areas of life?
Well, one, I did not invent the game of football, so I'm stealing and borrowing just like everybody else, I will say there isn't. I will go a little bit deeper, and hopefully I don't lose you with my offensive line jargon. We are the only unit on the field that all 5 of us have to do our jobs correctly in order for the play to succeed. We are the only unit that's that way. We are the only unit where constant communication is imperative to your success. We are the only unit where, in order for me to do my job, the guy next to me has to do his job. And then the other part of that is there is an element, I got this term from Jeff Stoutland because he used to say it when I was a player, there's an element of blind faith. That is the ultimate trust. Having blind faith, knowing that the guy behind me and the guy in front of me is going to do their job properly in order for the greater good of the team to succeed. The offensive line is such a selfless group. They get all the credit. They get all of the blame and none of the credit. You hear the fans tell you, hey, you need to block. They don't know what's happening over the course of a play. But man, just even from running a simple double team, if both of us don't push in the same direction, the guy that we're pushing is going to split us down the middle, and he's going to cause havoc in our backfield. And you can apply that to life. If you're working with somebody and y'all not working in the same direction, at some point you're going to be bumping heads and going this way with each other. So
100%.
it'll more be about the depths of the O-line, not necessarily a specific few plays.
So talk about the communication, because that's something like you don't see. Like when you're watching the game, really you only see the quarterback calling out the play. But I know it's much deeper than that, and you coming from the O-line perspective. Talk about the communication piece on that.
Yeah, for us, we're a signal-based team, so all 11 players look to the sideline and get the signals from our signal guys. And then once they get the signal, now it's time to communicate to one another what we're doing based on what the defense is giving us. Whether it's a 3-down front, whether it's 4-down front, whether they're giving us some sort of bear look or bear-ish look where, they're manipulating guys standing up, but they're covering up these spots. Those guys have to facilitate that within a matter of seconds to run the play effectively. If everyone came up and was muted and no one said anything, we would never know which direction we're going or which guys we are going to double team or whatever, who we're going to move from point A to point B. If no one said anything, we would never get anything accomplished. So, it goes up to, like you just said, the communication side of it. That's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, that's something we don't pick. Now, like I said, I'm just a fan. I've never played football in my life other than a pickup game here and there, and that was probably flag.
Yeah, I think for us, we're a little bit different in communication because I know when you watch it on Sundays, a lot of the quarterbacks do everything. They point out this, and then the O-line is kind of adjusting. We're a little bit different where our O-line is in charge of almost everything. We get the signals, but our O-line, we're in control of spotting mics, telling what we're doing, changing protections if we need to. Like, we take full control of that. And it's just about the ownership of the product that we're trying to put out. And that's what I try to teach those guys. Hey, you guys have big backs for a reason. Your job is to carry the load even when you don't want to. And your job is to carry the load for the greater good of somebody else. And that's hard as a unit. And it's even harder when you're an individual trying to do that as well.
So how do you teach accountability then on because I mean, we see you guys working as a team, and I know somebody has to hold somebody else accountable. How do you teach that?
In my opinion, when holding someone accountable, first I have to give them the tools in order for me to I have to give them the tools in order for me to be able to hold them accountable to do the right thing. So we'll just say from an O-line perspective, I'll teach them a technique or a fundamental to operate under. And as they are growing in how they move within those movements, it's like, okay, now that you understand how to do it, I'm going to trust you to go out there and do it. But there is no such thing as perfection. So when it happens, because it always does, if you play the game long enough, there's going to be an error. When you forget your fundamentals, or you're tired and your fundamentals just bring you a lapse of judgment, I go to the players, and it's not how it always was. I will go to the player and I will ask them what they did wrong. Because if they can explain themselves exactly what they did wrong or why this thing didn't work, they are now accountable for themselves and the product that is being put out there. If they can't explain it, well, I got to put that on me and say, okay, I got to go back and do a better job coaching and teaching it so that we can have the success that we're looking for. So that'll be how I view it. Again, I started out as a tyrant. I was yelling and screaming, and one of my players literally told me this. When you first got here, Coach, you ruled with fear. We did everything out of fear. We didn't do it because we knew you knew what you were talking about, even though we did know that wasn't the ruling thing. We did it out of fear. So that was enlightening to me, to say the least, and humbling too. Yep, I can hear you.
You froze though.
I never been asked that question. But you get asked more of the, what legacy do you want to leave behind? But what legacy means to me, well, first and foremost, I think legacy usually gets placed on you by the people around you, like, by your accomplishments. Like Phil Jackson is a legendary coach. He coached Michael Jordan, edit that out. He coached Michael Jordan. He coached Scottie Pippen, and he's won 6 titles with the Bulls, and he's won some titles with the Lakers, and Coach Kobe, and he's done on his legacy is really long, but it's also due to us as fans saying, man, he's great because he's done this thing or he's done that thing. I think a legacy is just how people truly see you when you're not around. Whether you're not in the room or you're not here on this earth anymore. How people view you or see you when you are not there. I mean, I think, and I could be completely wrong, but I think that's you the legacy you leave behind. Like the moment you walk out of a room, what is the person saying about you? Mm-hmm. This sounds very cliche-ish, but whenever I pass away, I want to have hundreds of kids at my funeral that I coached, with their families. Because that will even though I'm not physically here to see it, that would be the ultimate level of, man, he impacted these many people while he was here. I want people to be able to say, hey, he was a good football coach, but most importantly, he was a really, really good life coach. He helped me through some things when I was in college, or if I'm blessed to coach in the NFL, while I was a pro, that I don't know if I couldn't have gotten through it without him, or if it wasn't for him, this would have been harder. I want them to see me in that light. Wins and losses and rings and all that stuff, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it means something while you're here, but I honestly want to be able to, and it sounds braggadocious maybe, but I want people to talk about me in a great light when I leave. I would like for them to do it now too, get your flowers now, but so I can hear it. But ultimately, like, I want people to, like, man, he impacted me. He had a major impact on who I am, how I am, and why I am.
Very powerful. Very powerful. We're going to start landing the plane here and closing it up, man. Just want to bounce a couple more questions. We're going to pick your brain. That's okay.
Okay.
You're a family man or a God-fearing man. You've got church in your life and God. You've got your wife. How do you balance that all out?
Balancing is hard. It is a challenge because I just recently started to learn this. Your first ministry is supposed to be your home. However, when you get into coaching, you tend to put those kids in front of your family and you ask them to sacrifice themselves for you. And what that looks like is them not being there to tuck them in at night, you not making all of the recitals and all of the practices, or you not being there to have pillow talk time while your wife is awake before she gets ready to go to bed to start her day. She has to, and before I keep going, my wife has done a lot. She has done so much that allows me to be in the career that I'm in right now. If it wasn't for her, I would not be a football coach.
That's beautiful.
I would not be a football coach. It would be impossible for me to do my job without her. She has had to hold things down, and she had to do it when she didn't want to do it. And every coach will tell you the same thing about their spouse. They are doing it because they love us. They're doing it because they care about us and our dreams and wishes. But they don't always love it every single day being at home by themselves or taking care of the kids by themselves. So I'm appreciative of my wife, and if she sees this, thank you for all the hard work that you put in to take care of my house and our kids. But you just miss out on a lot of stuff, and you ask them to sacrifice a little bit, and it's hard to balance it out. But you have to try to make plans, and things change at the last minute in our field. We have last minute changes all the time, and it's just something that you have to deal with, because you're not ever okay with it. You're not okay with being away from your family. Like, I don't think you'll find a single coach that'll say, "Man, I love being away from my family." I don't think you'll find one. So yeah, balancing is a struggle, but you have to try to work at it every day.
And my we're gonna finish this
No,
clip.
it's the truth. I mean, it's the truth. Like, she does a lot.
Yeah. And just to go back just a little bit, because you described your players saying they used to play for you out of fear,
Mm-hmm.
versus this transformed coach now. What differences do you see in yourself and in the players and in the results from the Iron Fist to the transformational coach?
Oh, it has been night and day. And now you do have to know your room, okay? Because some rooms need to be run with an iron fist. So if I have to get back to that, I can just go and dig it up. So I just want to make that clear. But I hope I don't ever have to do that, because being a transformational coach, it has allowed me to put my hand around a kid and tell him I love him, and also tell him, hey, you're not doing well today. But also is being able to look at him and see he has a question about something other than football, and being able to answer it fully and honestly. It has allowed for us to produce more players who desire to want to come to practice, instead of, oh man, I got to go to practice and Coach Rutt gonna yell at me today, and I don't feel like dealing with that today. Mm-hmm. They're not as much in fear or worried about that. And they all have said, we noticed that now when you're yelling at us, you're getting on us, you're doing it for a reason. Rather before you were doing it just to do it. And it forces us to lock in more, because you are not doing the same thing you were doing before.
That sounds like some parenting tips, man.
Yeah, I wish I would have had them about 10 years ago.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother subject.
Yeah. We're gonna wind down with this one. This is probably the most important question of this entire recording, and that is, what's one message that you would give someone listening right now that's searching for purpose or feeling like they've lost their way? Like, if this was the only thing, this last segment, that this person saw, what would you want them to know?
I would want them to know that, first and foremost, keep God first. He has given us all a purpose. He has given us all a calling, and he wants you to achieve whatever your purpose is. And you will know what that purpose is because it's something that you can't shake, you can't let go, because he won't allow you to let it go. The second thing I would do is be true to yourself. I haven't always been true to myself. I think being true to yourself allows you to progress and move forward. That would be the second thing. I think the third thing I would say is, if you don't know, don't be afraid to ask for help. There's always somebody out there who's willing to help you, but if you don't ask, no one can help you. So do ask for that help, and lastly, do your own personal work. That's something truly that I've been forced to do within the last year or so. It is doing your own personal work is probably the hardest thing you're going to do, but it is very fulfilling on the other side. That would be the advice I would give somebody if they were watching only the end of this.
Okay.